now. So yeah, glad you guys are here. And Linda, take it away.
Cool, thanks. So before we get started, or I'm going to talk a little bit about showcases and the what and the how and the why. But like Luke said, we're going to be real. These are our calls; they're not webinars. And I'm just wondering who's done a showcase so far. You can unmute yourself, put it in the chat. Either.
This is Amy. I have not done a showcase yet.
Okay. Do you have one planned, Amy?
Not at this point, but my kids are really excited about the Makey Makey and the Ozobot. So I think I will incorporate some of that as well as a couple of the games that a couple of the kids created.
Okay. That's great. Yay. And Terry, how'd it go? The one you had. Type away. I'm going to share my screen. And I already
Those slides.
Oh, good. I just have a few, and it's text. I stole from 4-H, so you see the info there about where I got it from, because
good attribution. Good for
right,
you.
right, exactly. And I just because I wanted to, not knowing exactly who was going to be here, I invited a couple of people who couldn't actually make it, so maybe we'll get them another time to talk about the showcase. But I wanted to make sure to have some things to jump off of as people were coming in and talking. Yeah. And Terry, how did it go? The one you had summer.
And Richmond Library is in Utah, just for context. But you know, all of you guys are small and rural libraries, right. So everybody's going to have a pretty similar shared experience from that perspective, which is cool.
And that's also why I like 4-H, because I am such a huge fan of 4-H. I grew up in New York City and didn't have 4-H, but people have told me since that there is urban 4-H, which is this. But I just love the idea of what people are doing in 4-H, and it's such a great connection for libraries. So I'm just going to show you what these slides are, and I just thought they would be a jumping off point for us. Is 4-H has this guide to running showcases, and they put like why you do it and some ideas for doing them. So I thought we could talk about some of these ideas and then hear what your questions are and things like that. Oops, I didn't mean to go forward. So
let's talk about what is a showcase event first. Right. And okay. Maybe that's on this slide, I don't know. But yeah, when you say that, Linda, when you say showcase, what are you envisioning? What does that look like to you?
Thank you, Luke. So I'm envisioning that it's an event that happens, I think people think it always happens at the end of something, but it's an opportunity to recognize what youth have been doing and give them a chance to talk about what they've been doing, show what they've been doing, and also to show your appreciation for them doing the work. So like on this slide, it says combine recognition events with a showcase to celebrate achievement. So it's really celebrating the achievement of what young people have been doing in your activities. And the other thing is that Code Club is a perfect place, but almost anything libraries do with youth, you could do showcase events. If they're working on projects or creating things, you can do a lot of different kinds of showcases. Do actually people have questions? Thank you for doing that, Luke, because do people have questions just in general about what a showcase is?
I usually talk about them as basically like a show and tell, but you can do them at whatever level of intensity you're comfortable with, right? You can just do an impromptu show and tell really in the final 15 minutes of a Code Club, all the way to you can do an event that you plan and it's out a couple months in the future and you invite local politicians, media, friends and family, and all of those people, and you really like throw an event. And so anywhere within that spectrum is kind of how I think about showcase events. But I think the important thing is exactly what you're saying. What do these showcase events accomplish? They give kids a chance to show what they've done and to get recognized or get kind of awarded for their progress that they've made.
Yeah.
And from a learning standpoint, or like a learning philosophy standpoint, I think that's a really important part in the learning journey. Think about your orchestra concerts or band concerts, that kind of thing. That's where like kids get up on stage, show everything that they've been working hard on, and get the praise, get the clapping from their parents and family, and have a really good experience doing it. So,
well, and Luke, as you just said that, I'm thinking about, you said band concerts and things like that, but football games, basketball games, any sports.
I almost said soccer tournament. Right? Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. And those, when you said stand up and clap, think about that basket that a basketball player makes, or the base hit that a baseball player makes, and that all that happens with that. So giving all youth the chance to be recognized in that way for what they're working on is really important. I love that Terry said that the kids had fun showing their projects, but she showed some of her mistakes. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a great thing.
Way to lead the way, Terry.
So this slide just talks about making sure that you recognize the youth. And I think that's also really cool that you said that it can happen, Luke, like at the end of every code club that you're doing, not just at the very end of the series, but having youth do this maybe to a lower level is really key.
Yeah. Maybe like here's a metaphor. Like if learning is a journey, if you're like on this path and you're learning things and you're picking up new skills along the way, the showcase event is like a mile marker. It's like a post that you put in the ground, and you can look back to and say, that's where I was then. And that's a moment to be celebrated. It's an important experience in the learning journey, if we think about this in terms of a journey. And so not only is it fun, not only is it encouraging, but it's actually, I think, just important. Like it's important as learners that we have these opportunities.
Yeah. And you're also, see, you just keep saying things and you make me think of something else. But you also made me think about, it's a little bit different, but it also helps you evaluate what's happening in your code clubs, because that's what we're talking about. But right, so what happens when they show what they've been working on? What do you notice is working from what they've been doing, and what you might want to change or work on more?
Yeah.
So that's really
cool. Amy's got a good message in
Yeah.
here. Amy says, in the last 10 minutes of Code Club, I always ask if someone wants to share their work. That's a great idea, Amy. Just like open mic for the last 10 minutes. Not always, but sometimes people do share. And I just think that's a cool experience, a cool addition to kind of the normal workflow or rhythm of Code Club.
And Amy, I'm wondering, do you notice like who likes to share, or what they like to share, or that kind of thing? And Amy, you also have that awesome story that you told me, I guess in Vermont, when I saw you in Vermont, that about how your youth have been working together.
Right. I was telling you that at Arcel, they started creating games together because I had them all working together there over the summer. There were only 4 coming. So I said, okay, all of you are going to create a game. And when school started back up and I had more kids, there were a couple of them who said, oh, let's keep working and create another game. And they were all pretty excited about that. And they shared. And it's usually when they have a challenge and they work through that challenge, and, just like anyone, young or adult, you say, oh my gosh, I did it, come check this out. And that's how the kids have been. It's all pretty fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you all, because I'm reading what it says in the second bullet on the slide about the combining recognition with a program. Like, what kinds of recognition? And the standing up and showcases recognition, but does anybody do anything else to recognize? Because it says hand out recognition items. I don't know if people do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've been at showcases where there's been prizes. So we did one. We were like sponsoring one where the winner, there was like a panel of judges, which were librarians, and I was on the panel too. And there was like a rubric that we scored the kids against, and first, second, third place got robots or something cool. And then I think everybody got a candy bar or something simple. So I've seen stuff like that. I don't think I've ever been to one where there was like a certificate, but that could be a really cool idea.
Or a button. You know, young people seem to love buttons, and libraries seem to love making buttons.
Maybe that's a Seattle thing.
No, button makers are huge. Just like you stood up for me with the vampires, stand up for me with the button.
Yeah, making a button that says, I'm a coder.
Yeah. I love that, Amy.
That could be fun.
Do you have a button maker?
We did. It got borrowed, and I'm still trying to get it back. You know how that goes.
Yeah, that happens. Or you could even have stickers. I don't know how expensive stickers are, but stickers printed up that you could hand out that say, I'm a coder. Could be really cool too. I think that's just a really nice way, and then they can read them, wear them wherever they go, and say, what was that? Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah. I'm thinking of that, the other side of that, the program accomplishments. So showcases are a great opportunity for you, as whatever role you are in the library, whether you're a youth librarian or a director. It's an opportunity for you to turn around and show potentially whoever you're accountable to, like, look at this program that we're running at our library. Look how amazing it is, how successful it is. But even if it's not people you're accountable to, it's just an opportunity to turn around to your larger community and say, look, these kinds of opportunities happen at the library. How cool is that? These kids have been coming for just an hour a week for the last several weeks, and look at what they're making. I mean, that's amazing. And you get to tell that story to the wider community. And that's a huge thing I can't tell you the number of times that local media have just kind of naturally picked up these stories. This is a great story to tell, kids learning how to code in libraries. And that comes back to you guys and comes back to the success of your library programs and what you're doing as a library institution in your community.
Yeah, it's also a great recruitment once you do that, right? As people, so when it goes out in a newspaper, because you're doing this great showcase or whatever, then you actually also are getting more people interested in what you're doing. Let's keep talking. I'm just going to go to the next slide, if it will let me. There we go. And just mention another thing that we haven't talked about that I think is really interesting is, and I don't know if it would work for you, but having your showcase somewhere else. So like having it in a school, or if your small or rural library has a community center, or things
local
like that. Local
business.
Yeah, or I love
local
that.
business with a conference room or a meeting room. It's big enough for you guys. If there's any kind of tech businesses in the community, get the kids out into a tech community. That could be really, or into a tech building. That could be really cool.
Yeah, where there are other people that you might not normally see, and then the kids have the chance to, like, wow, imagine. Or if you have
here in Vermont, we have our annual town meeting, and it's possible I could set up a table so that in between the conversation, the community members who attend town meeting could see what's happening at the library and kind of see where their tax dollars are going.
And what a great recruitment opportunity too, from just the community members who are there. I mean, Code Club always comes back to recruitment. How do we get more kids there, right? So I think any angle we can get at that is great. Let me tell a story really quick. There's a small rural library. They're actually on a Indian reservation in North Dakota. They're called Newtown City Library. and they started a code club years ago. They're not a part of the grant. They started a code club years ago, and it was successful. Kids were coming. Kids were learning how to code. And I think they somehow got a grant for the first year, but then the grant was running out and they had to find funding to keep it going. So their kids, I don't know if the librarian organized this, I'm a little iffy on the details, but their kids decided that they were going to show up to a city council meeting and with their laptops and show the city council members what they had made during Code Club. And so the city council members are there, they're doing their meeting, these kids pull out their laptops and show them these games that they made and websites that they made. And the city council members were floored. They were astounded that these kids in the Native American reservation, they don't have these opportunities. They, like, the city council members immediately made the connection, like, oh, these kids are getting jobs. These kids are gonna like have a hope in a future that they didn't have otherwise. And so what they, not only did they like fund the Code Club, you know, our Prenda's measly fee, they paid that, but they bought a whole like bank of laptops for Code Club specifically. And they gave the library a city-owned building that was vacant right on Main Street. So the library was a little ways away. And they gave them a like building, a new space for the library that was 3 times the size of what they were using. And they'd said, here's your new library right on Main Street. And all of that because these kids went and showed up at a city council meeting to show what they had learned at Code Club. I have a blog post right up about it, and I'll put that in the chat because it's just an awesome story. Now, I don't expect that to happen anywhere else ever for the, you know, all eternity, but it was cool that it happened once.
Even if it's not the exact thing that happens, just if the adults in the community start thinking about youth and the skills they're gaining through the library, and then the youth get the chance to articulate what they're doing is just amazing. That is so cool. That's awesome. Yeah, are there other places that you all can think about doing these showcases or having an opportunity to connect the youth to what they're doing? Or questions about that? Did I already say this once? I hate that Zoom doesn't let you see if someone's typing.
Yeah, you said that last time. It's a good point.
Slack does. I mean, that's the one thing I wish they would do. I should put in a feature request.
Yeah, iMessage also doesn't do that if it's a group message.
Yeah, that's true. Huh. That's interesting.
It's the same frustration for group messages.
Yeah. I'm going to put in a feature request for Zoom. They usually respond and say, good idea. And then it never happens. Because I'll totally different subject. I want you to be able to download recordings onto an iPad Pro so I can edit them there, and you can't do that. You can't download unless they've changed it since you're going to find out I can't.
Is that your main device?
No, it's not. But sometimes when I travel, it's what I bring because it's so much smaller and I don't have the energy to deal with even my light MacBook, my little MacBook Air. But anyway.
That makes sense. Yeah.
All right. So these are just some sort of what's the word I want? Just how-to kinds of things in terms of, and a lot of you probably already do this, but thinking about, you know, food and that says partner with community venues, which I've talked about. Movie theaters are a great idea too.
I like that.
Or a school auditorium or a gym. Anyway. And then I also love this part about parents, which I'm sure probably a lot of you do ask parents or thinking about asking parents if you do a big final thing. But if it says, and then it says to make sure that if the parents are there, that you follow up with them and give them something. Like it could be a recording if you can video, or, you know, just a link to the different things either their child made or the whole realm of what young people created. And having that available, I think, is really important too.
That's a great idea. Some kind of deliverable for parents afterwards just creates a better experience, helps them feel more connected. reminds them, oh yeah, my kid did that thing. That was cool.
And that's also, as I'm thinking about it, it's also how you get, like, I don't know, do people put out links to the stuff youth create? I mean, no, not all of it is available, but I wonder if there's a way. Luke, is there a way that people do that? Like you can publicize even photos, I suppose, or small videos?
So every kid gets their own kind of portfolio, where they have it's in their missions page, and they can get back to every project that they've ever created. But there's no like built-in send this to your parents, thing. And part of that is just like a privacy. Why we haven't done it is we just try to stay back from the line of external communication or connection from the platform. But yeah, there's no reason why independently kids couldn't just copy that link, and librarians can facilitate a sharing experience where they open up an email and send it out.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be really cool.
Go
ahead.
Well, I'm just brainstorming. Like if you have a blog or a web page or library website that you can edit, like you have the ability yourself to make updates to, you could do like featured projects that were built in Code Club, and you could post the link to 3 or 4 projects that kids have built over the last semester. And then as people are, they see, oh, your library does Code Club, and they check it out and they're like, oh, these kids are building this. This is really cool. And it could be an honor for the kids. Like it's kind of a digital showcase, right? It's instead of doing an in-person showcase, you're now featuring their work digitally, which is pretty rewarding too.
Yeah, I think a digital showcase. And also I'm thinking about the school. There's been so many articles lately about the importance of having school and out of school time organizations have a flow between STEM learning. So if you learn something in school at the public library or the Boys and Girls Club or whatever, should also be helping out in that learning. And so it would be a great way to showcase what's school, they know what's happening to some degree, showcase how the public library is supporting some of that STEM learning that goes on in schools. Could be really cool. And then there's just one more slide. And we've talked about this a little, and Luke, you mentioned it too, is that don't forget that other people, besides family members, for these kinds of showcase events. So people from the county, from the state, and even they could like introduce the program or close the program or do something with the youth. It is really helpful. And then, as it says, is better than reading a final report. So, I agree. So what kinds of questions do people have about showcases, making them work, all of that kind of thing?
And while you guys are typing those in, I'm going to share the one Prenda resource we have on showcase events. It's just how to organize a showcase event. It's kind of an older resource, but if administration scares you, this document is supposed to make it easy. Do this, then do this, then do this. Now you have a showcase event. So that's all that's for. I hadn't, and while I want to hear these questions too, I do have to hop off in just a couple minutes, and I had one idea I wanted to throw out there. What if, as the, I don't know if it's as Prenda or as the IMLS grant, Code Clubs in Small and Rural Libraries, what if we did a like global kind of competition or digital showcase where we take project submissions, we like set an end date, so maybe it's like end of December or something, and we get all the submissions from all around the country, and we have a web page, and we can feature the most the winners or whatever, like featured projects from that. And it's something that your kids have to work towards. That's the other thing, the other value I think of showcase that we haven't talked about yet is if a kid knows that there's a showcase coming up, then it is an incentive to progress and to work and to complete a project by that date. And that's a really helpful to have that deadline for them. That's helpful for a lot of kids to have that. So I don't know, I'm just spitballing that idea. What if we did a global showcase, digital showcase as the grant or as Prenda, and your kids had some kind of, even if you can't kind of organize that yourself, they have something that they could participate in at a larger level. I think that could be really cool.
I love that idea, and you made me think of the STEM for All that National Science Foundation does, and they invite their projects every year to do a video about their project, and then the world.
Oh, that's cool.
Right, yeah. So that could be sort of, if
so as part of their submission, they have to do like a video of what it is. Oh, I love that.
And then the world could vote, right? Like, what's your favorite one? And you can write comments and on the submissions and things like that. So I just put the link. And even if it's not like a major competition or something, to have that up there for people to see, I think it would be awesome. I love that, Amy, absolutely.
Well, I'm totally interested in that. I don't think it'd be all that hard to organize and administrate. So let's keep talking about it.
Yeah, could do maybe start with the first group here and have them pilot it.
Pilot.
Librarians
love pilots.
Yes, they do. It's a good way to test things out.
It's so slow.
Exactly. So, so people really like that. A national secretary.
I like that. National showcase.
Yeah. All think that's an awesome idea. See, that's the other thing that's awesome about these calls, is that it's just a place to generate ideas.
Yeah.
For Prenda or individuals.
Yep. All right. Well, I got to hop off.
Thank you, Luke.
So have fun, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
I am the host now. It just told me. So, Terry, you said you didn't have any questions, and I don't know if anybody else has any questions, but I'm wondering, like, so Terry, you said you had some new ideas. I'm also just wondering, like, what's the thing that you all think, or that each of you thinks would be interesting to try out with a showcase from what you all just heard? Like, is there something new you want to try out, or something different you want to try out? I don't know if that question doesn't make sense. You can let me know that. And remember, you can demute yourself. I could sing. Yeah, Amy, I think that's probably the case for everybody. I think buttons or certificates is a great idea. And then having city council or somebody hand those out. And you could have the youth design the certificate or the button too, right? Either older kids who aren't participating or who are participating. Yeah, I think that could be a really good addition to it. And I would expect, I mean, Luke said everything comes back to recruitment, that if you do start expanding the showcase to include other people, it would be huge recruitment. Other things that people notice that they're like, oh, I want to try that, or whatever, something like that. So who's going to try having a show? I know, oh, that's what I wanted to see. That was my question. Oh, tell us more about that, Terry, having it as an open house. And as you're typing, that's one thing I meant to say that I wanted to and forgot, is I think one of the things that sometimes we forget to do, I learned this from a colleague, is that we have to prepare the young people for the showcase. And you might all realize this, but I was not good at this, is that instead of just saying, hey, we're going to have the showcase, stand up, be ready to talk about what you did. I think part of what we have to do is actually go over how to talk about your project, give young people a chance to practice, which might be what happens at the end of individual code club sessions. But I sometimes worry that if we send young people out to showcase and talk about what they did without practicing, it could be dangerous. Dangerous isn't the right word. It could be scary for the kids. So Terry, are you going to have the young people actually talking about those things while you're showcasing them? Because I'm wondering, what if you had youth who use the makey-makeys or the Ozobots or the Spheros, etc., be the ones who sort of talk about it at each station? That's great. And then just like I was saying, maybe give them time to practice what they're going to say. I know I always need to practice what I'm going to say, even when it's a call and informal. So Amy, are you thinking you are, I can't remember what you said, you are going to try and do like a end of the whatever showcase?
Yeah, but I would also like to do something sooner than that.
Yeah.
Maybe in January, because they're going to be playing with the Makey and Ozobots starting next week. They're really, really excited. And so, like you were saying, I want them to be prepared to showcase instead of just kind of doing a haphazard event. You know, have it be a little bit more formal, and they're excited to share and they know what they're going to share. And so I'm thinking sometime in January.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's a really good idea. And I think now that you're saying that obviously, well, not obviously, because it wasn't obvious to me until just now, that when you have them showcase at the end of each session, you're giving them some of that practice, which is great.
Right. And the kids who like to do that, at this point, in the middle of the session, they'll say, "Come look at what I'm doing." And so they're getting more comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
It's getting them comfortable to present to other adults.
Yeah. That might be another, I mean, I'm reading what Lori wrote, but that might be another reason to do the stations, right? Because then it's more informal than standing up and showing what you did.
Right. And I guess I was thinking more on stations as well. It's a small room though, so it could get rather chaotic. I'll have to do some careful planning.
Yeah, well, and actually that's one of the things Lori's saying is that if they understood who was going to come, they would have done it a little bit, set up the room a little bit differently. So you're saying, Lori, that each youth would have a table to talk about what they created, did, etc. That makes sense. I went, oh, got it. All right, that makes sense. Yeah, 4 is probably a lot. I'm also thinking about how, I have all these thoughts going through my head about how then they get to hear each other. So maybe that's a practice session, right? Like if they have a practice before the showcase, that you have the tables and then each young person, everybody, like with Amy, your other 3 kids would go to each other's tables and hear their pitch or conversation or whatever, so that they would get practice at what they're going to talk about at their station. Yeah. Do you all have pictures? So you haven't done them yet, but I think those kinds of pictures would be really great, or videos of what the young people are doing. Other thoughts or questions about showcases? Starting them, what works, what doesn't work? successes, failures. Oh, that's great, Lori. And in general, I thought this was also a time if people have questions for each other about Code Club, how it's going, questions about doing it better. This is a great time. We have we can take about 20 more minutes. So if, anybody has questions for each other or something that went really well, you want to tell everybody else, or something that didn't go so well and you'd love to vent a little bit. Oh, tell us more about that, Lori, how they were different. That's an interesting idea. Could also do a separate kind for like stakeholders and community people. Random kids. It's interesting. That's great. Other thoughts about this or questions? Or general kinds of stuff? Stories to tell? I love that idea. That's a lot of work, doing the different invitations. So the invitation looked the same, it just said something different? That's great, Lori. And show off to everyone else. Oh, cool. That's a great idea. Really targeted messages makes a lot of sense. Does anyone else have an answer to that? I think so, Amy. I mean, you might want to keep some sort of historic list. I'm trying to decide. Anybody else have thoughts about that? It might be good to keep them somewhere, but maybe you have an active and an inactive list. Does that work with how Prenda works?
Here I am.
Yeah, go for it.
Check that. Yeah, I'll look into that. I hadn't. It's just when I go to look at the list of, just to make sure that everyone who's there, I have about 14 kids now, and just to make sure that they're all signed in.
Yeah.
And I have to weed through everybody. And
yeah, that seems like a lot. It seems to, I think that's have an archive list and a active and inactive seems to make sense to me. And then you could even, you can move them back and forth.
Yeah, because who knows, maybe one or two after soccer is over.
Right.
Back.
Yeah. Anybody else have thoughts about that or experience with that? Amy, how many do you have for the full list?
Oh, 40 something.
Yeah, that's a lot to go through.
Yeah, and there are some that I know for sure will not be coming back. You know, they told me that it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. They thought it would be playing computer games.
As opposed to making computer games.
Right. I said, no, you have to be in control.
Yes, you want to be able to make those games.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Lori, so I think if there's a way to make it so you can just move people back and forth is a really good idea. And you must know them all really well now, Amy, right? And everybody else, like if you see them all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the kids, they still come to the library every day. So I see them. So I know that they don't want to come into coding, but yeah.
But they might want to come to a showcase.
They might, yeah, to see what their friends did and say, oh, and that might even entice them.
Yeah.
Come back. So having an inactive list is a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I like that too. Anybody else have questions like that? Facilitating, setup, recruitment. We've all been doing it for almost a year now, or a year plus now.
We're not quite a year yet in Heartland.
Right. And Terry, you're half a year. I know people are at different phases, and then it's going to start a new cohort at the beginning of 2020, which will be fun. Is it what you all, well, I'm curious, how's it different than what you all thought when you first started?
For me, it's what I was hoping it would be, a curriculum that I could work through and just see and to authentically be able to tell the kids to go back and read the instructions or listen to the video and not be confused myself.
Yeah.
You know, just to know that they have it, that it is so straightforward and easy to work through that I feel confident that the kids can do it as well.
That's awesome. That's great. Terry, that's awesome. Oh, that's interesting, Lori. Are other people finding that too? Set up and take down, and can the youth help with that? I could see why it would take a while.
I consider it to be my workout for the day.
I get that. I'm thinking about, there's a program I sometimes go to here in Seattle at one of the branches, and that's it's teens and younger kids, and they all help clean up. They were doing Arduino last time I was there, and there was stuff all over the place, but they all had it sort of like a system, and it went pretty fast when they helped to clean up. Oh, yeah, that's too bad, Lori. Huh. Yeah, and how come only half of them? Is it because you're using public laptops and non-public laptops? Oh, got it. Got it. That makes sense. Chromebooks.
So I have a Chromebook story. Last year, well, my school, all the kids have a Chromebook.
Mm-hmm.
Under 5th grade, they're not allowed to bring them home, but they got permission for Code Club to bring them to Code Club and then bring them back to school. But what happened last year is they were either not bringing them back to school, you know, forgetting them at home the next day, or not bringing them back charged. So this year they were told they couldn't use their Chromebooks. And there were a couple of parents who called the school, and the school had old Chromebooks, and they call them Coder Chromebooks.
Huh.
And the kids who come to Code Club get a Coder Chromebook.
Huh.
Yeah, so I thought that was really cool, that the school is helping to coordinate for,
It's really cool.
yeah.
I love that. I love that they named them that. I think
Yeah, so I can,
Go
they
ahead.
can tell them from their own personal
Yeah.
Chromebook.
That's really cool. Huh. I'm going to start doing that. That's great, Lori. I think I remember that. Is that because she's just coming from school? Yeah. Got it. All right, everybody. Unless there's some burning questions or comments or hopes, wishes and dreams that I can't probably fulfill, we'll call it. Thank you for being here. I think that the showcase is an awesome thing to do. And I think that as people do it more, hearing about it will be really great so that others can learn from your experiences. So thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.